And a good Monday to you. Welcome into the Nick Craig Show, streaming live a little bit later than usual on all of our traditional platforms, YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. A couple of days here before Christmas. Don't forget that you can watch the show live weekday mornings, typically 7 a.m., YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, and of course available 24/7 wherever you get your podcasts. Also want to thank Melissa Gott and the amazing team over at the Law Group for their continued support as well. You can visit them online at lawgroupnc.com. We'll hear more from them coming up a little bit later on. Just kind of a quick programming note here over the next couple of days. I am on remote for Christmas, very appreciative of that opportunity and the ability to do that. And I'm filling in for Vince Coakley on WBT Radio over the next, I guess it's actually 2 weeks exactly. I'll be in for him every day minus Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day through the rest of the next 2 weeks. So the shows are going to be, the Nick Craig Show, the podcast, is going to be in a little bit of a different form, a little bit shorter shows, and I'm going to encourage you to check out the Vince Coakley podcast over the next couple of days, as that's where a lot of that conversation and content is going, as again, I'm in for Vince over that next period of time. So very much great to have you here on this Monday afternoon. And the title of today's show and is all based off of an event that President Donald Trump had in North Carolina on Friday. He was in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. That's Congressional District 1, where he was beginning, I think, his push to voters, his push to people across the state of North Carolina to get engaged and get involved in the midterm elections. The president was out on Friday. That was 6 days before Christmas. Speaking at 9 p.m. is when he came out on stage. 9 p.m. in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. It is very obvious. It is very evident that the president is gearing up big time for the municipal elections. The midterm elections. He is getting ready to go at an unbelievable pace as we begin just here in a couple of days, flip the calendar over to 2026. He spoke for, let me make sure the exact time on this is correct. He spoke for just shy of an hour and 30 minutes Friday in Rocky Mount. And, I talked about this at the beginning of the Vince Coakley podcast today, which, again, I'll encourage you to go and listen to and get more of my thoughts. The show today is going to be much shorter than usual as that show took place. But you'll remember over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of conversation. There's been a lot of comment, predominantly from those, surprise, from the political left, that Donald Trump is failing health-wise. His physical health is subsiding. His mental health is all but gone. I mean, there's nothing left. He's mentally deranged. He's mentally ill. All of this coming from the same group of people, whether we're talking about card-carrying Democrats or those members of the media that ignored this problem that Joe Biden had for his entire tenure as the 46th president of the United States. And I made the point, I got a little pushback, which I understand. I'm all for pushback. I love debate. I love conversation. But I got a little pushback this morning on the radio over this comment. And I will continue to make this point to anybody that will listen to it. I am not going to partake, and I am not going to have to defend President Donald Trump and his actions to the individuals in the media that ignored everything, literally everything, that the Biden administration failed to do. Whether we're talking about the border, the economy, him disappearing for weeks or months on end with nobody having any idea what the hell was going on. No press conferences, no public sightings. I mean, the guy just would vanish for periods of time, weeks, months at a time. He'd be completely MIA. He'd send out his great press secretary and Karine Jean-Pierre to do a little damage control, do a little coverage. she'd stand up in front of the podium in the basement of the White House and, make some ridiculous claims to the media. Of course, the only individuals really getting to ask any serious questions in there were those of the card-carrying Democrat establishment. People like Peter Doocy at Fox News would consistently ask about, Biden's mental health. What's going on here? We haven't heard from the president in quite some time. And what were we told over and over again? Oh, it's a conspiracy theorist. Why are you being a conspiracy theorist? Why are you peddling in conspiracy? You don't have any evidence to back these claims up. You don't have any legitimate arguments to be made. How dare you say this about Joe Biden? How dare you denigrate the office of the presidency with these wild, out-of-pocket conspiracy theories? That's what we were told for months on months, years for years. Until, of course, Joe Biden bowed out shortly after his disastrous debate in July of 2024, right? We've all seen the videos, we've all seen the pictures from that debate. President looking off into space, having seemingly no freaking idea where the hell he is. And we were told, as conservatives, we were told, whether you're a fan of Trump or not, we were told, nothing to see here. Disregard what you're seeing with your own two eyes. Don't play into these dangerous narratives that are being pushed by those on the right. It's not real, even though there is clear documented video evidence of Joe Biden not being able to finish a sentence, which happened at least 3 times during that debate. He would just stop middle of a sentence, not a complete thought, just stop middle of what he was saying. You were told you were a conspiracy theorist. So over the last couple of weeks, I brought you that here on the show. These conversations now from places like the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN, the list goes on, that Donald Trump's mental health is failing, that his physical health is also deteriorating at a rapid rate. They try and back it up with all of this shoddy evidence at best. And meanwhile, Friday night, 9:03 p.m., President Donald Trump makes his way on stage in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Congressional District 1, and speaks for just shy of an hour and 30 minutes. It's like an hour and 29 minutes and 30 seconds. I mean, he's just seconds short of a full hour and 30 minutes. He wraps up his comments shortly after 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, presumably, hangs around for a few minutes, probably talking to some donors and some volunteers, and then hops back on Air Force One, goes back to Washington, D.C., and probably gets back into the White House sometime around midnight. And this is the president that the media is telling us, folks, we got to ask these questions. Folks, we got to ask the tough questions. We're the media, after all, right? So we ask tough questions. We dive into these important issues. And if you're unwilling to do that, well, now you're not doing a good job. If you're not willing to ask that as a Republican, if you're not willing to ask that as a conservative, well, you're letting the country fall apart in front of your own very eyes. And so I've continued to maintain this approach and this strategy that I am not going to be backed into a corner. I am not going to defend the president to individuals who at this point in time, I can only say are individuals that are dishonest brokers of truth. We're talking about these major media publications, whether we're talking about the Times or the Washington Post or CNN or MSNBC or CBS, NBC, ABC, you name the media outlet, they probably fall into the category. I'm not playing that game. They want me to play the game. That's the goal, right? We have to understand what's going on here. They want us to play the game. They want us to come out and have to defend the president that we support in President Trump. They want us to have to defend him. And I will just plainly say, I'm not playing this game. We talked about this last week with the Rob Reiner post, all of the outrage and controversy over that. I am not going to get my talking points. I am not going to get beat down by the media, who has ignored controversy after controversy after controversy that made them look bad, that made their guy look bad. I'm not playing that game. And I made the point this morning on the radio show in Charlotte that if you are somebody that is willing to be critical of both sides, like which I believe I am, and you're somebody that is willing to engage in an honest, legitimate conversation and dialogue, I will have that. I will say that, yeah, I don't necessarily agree in the way in which the president handles all of his business. I'm happy to say that. If you're somebody that is worthwhile in terms of legitimate conversation. But if you're some hack leftist who for the last 10 years has been calling Donald Trump an authoritarian and has been calling all of his supporters racists, part of the group of deplorables, right, to borrow a great line from our former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. If you're one of those individuals, I don't have any words for you. I'm not engaging with you. I'm not talking to you. I'm not arguing with you over policy. I'm not arguing with you over this. I'm not doing it because you have purposefully been deceitful, in some cases now going on nearly a freaking decade. And tomorrow morning on the radio program in Charlotte, I'm going to be going through some stories that I've got of Democrats and liberals petrified over the fact that they've got to spend Christmas or Christmas Eve with their racist, bigoted relatives that, of course, support Donald Trump, because we use these blanket terms to support, to describe anybody or everybody that doesn't agree with us as Democrats full throat. That's how this works. It's not that Democrats have better ideas. It's not that Democrats have better policies. It's that when they can't defend something, when there's nowhere else to go, we see the same thing over and over again. You're a racist. It's a time as old as it's a tale as old as time. When in doubt, claim somebody is a racist. That's how you win your argument. And that's what we've seen the Democrats do now for the better part of a decade. When they're losing an argument, when they're losing a debate, when they're losing a policy issue, you're just a racist. You're an authoritarian. You're a dictator. You're destroying the thread of democracy. You're destroying this. You're destroying that. It's the boy who cried wolf, right? To me, this stuff no longer holds any meaning. To me, this stuff no longer carries any weight. I don't interact and engage with that, and I'm not going to. And you're not going to force me to do so. You're just not. I am rejecting the premise of the game, and I'm not playing it. Now, let me be clear with this. I do not believe that President Donald Trump has handled every issue perfectly. Unlike those on the political left. And see, this is the big difference between the left and the right currently. Most folks on the right can say, I don't agree with everything that the president does. I don't. I've been very critical of him. I think his tariff policies are a freaking disaster. I think they make things more expensive for people. It is a tax on the middle class. So there you go. I disagree with something that President Trump said. Ooh. Democrats just don't do that, though, do they? How often did you hear Democrats, mainstream Democrats, coming out during the Biden administration and having anything negative to say? The answer to that question is you probably didn't. And why didn't you? Because they're not honest brokers of truth. They're not interested in fact. They're not interested in reality. They're interested in doing one thing and one thing only, which is carrying water for them and their friends. And when you're in the mainstream media and you've got a Democrat in the Oval Office or Democrats controlling Congress, you are going to do anything in your power to defend them. I don't believe that's the case. I have evidence to back up that's the case. I've got 4 years of Joe Biden just a couple of years ago to back up that claim very substantially. This is not some out of control Republican conspiracy. We've got very clear evidence to back up these claims. So I can say to you with all honesty this morning, I do not trust those on the political left, and I'm not going to, because they have lost my trust. They have decided that fact and truth is not relevant. What is relevant and what is important is propaganda. And that's fine. That is, let me be clear with this. That's fine. If they want to be the party of propaganda, if all they want to do is peddle and push their narrative, I'm fine with that. They have the right to do that. I'm not in a position to say you're not allowed to do that. But at the same time, I don't have to listen to what you say. I don't have to partake in these nonsensical games that you want me to play in it, and I'm not going to. And so that is kind of the premises of some of the radio show today. Again, I encourage you to check out the Vince Coakley podcast. Search for that in your favorite podcast app. I sat in for Vince for a little over, for about 2 hours today. But I do want to play a couple of clips from the Trump event that took place in Rocky Mount on Friday. And as we sit here just a couple of days in front of Christmas, well, the president had some Christmas wishes to the American people and continued to push back on this narrative that, oh, you're not allowed to say Christmas, everything has to be happy holidays, this and that. Here's the president on Friday in Rocky Mount.
Well, I'm thrilled to be back in this incredible state with so many proud, hardworking American patriots, which is what you are. And let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas. Remember, they didn't want to say Merry Christmas when I first started. 2016, we don't want to say Merry Christmas. They said, I said, no, we're going to bring back Christmas. And they don't say that anymore. They don't want to say it, but they don't talk about it anymore because they got shellacked. We're here tonight to celebrate 11 incredible months. It's been the most successful first year of any president in the history of our country.
So there's the president in Rocky Mount kind of starting it off with this ridiculous notion and idea that you're not allowed to say Christmas anymore, which I think is the funniest freaking thing in the world. He says he has no problem saying it and well says it. Absolutely no question about that in his commentary in Rocky Mount, and something that he continues to say over and over again. He also highlighted some issues ongoing in North Carolina. Obviously, crime been the center of attention in our state's largest city, that's Charlotte. Here's the president on what has been a rough couple of months in the Queen City.
2 weeks ago, an illegal alien from Honduras who entered under Biden walked onto a train in Charlotte with a large knife and brutally stabbed a passenger multiple times in the chest. The same savage criminal alien had previously been arrested 2 months earlier, but he was released by authorities to pillage and kill, which he did. Also recently in this state, you saw this one. Nobody could watch it. Another monstrous criminal with 14 prior arrests plunged a knife into the throat of an innocent, young, beautiful girl, Ukraine. She was from Ukraine, who was sitting on a train. You could see she was scared to be there. You could see that, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. She walked onto the train. She was afraid to be there. What happened to North Carolina? You didn't have that condition. And then she was attacked from behind violently by this savage. No one can ever forget that look of shock and terror on the young woman's face. It happened so fast as her murderer walked down the train car, dripping with blood all over. Passengers are looking at him. They're saying, what is that? There's blood pouring out from every part of him, from the knife. For years, radical left politicians have been releasing bloodthirsty, violent offenders and criminal aliens back onto your streets under our leadership. We're finally getting illegal aliens and vicious felons off the streets and throwing them out of our country, or in some cases putting them in the toughest jails in the world, because frankly, we don't want to let them into their country because we don't want to take a chance that these animals will come back. We're restoring law and order in America.
And the president's comments on law and order are ones that obviously resonated with voters. I mean, we looked at this, 3 weeks ago here on the show, 3 weeks ago, we looked at some political polling just days before the 2024 presidential election, and we saw crime, safety, and immigration being top issues that people were going to the polls for. You had the economy, inflation, and then some mixture of crime, immigration, and public safety. And depending on the poll that you were looking at, that was in some random order of the top 3. It was a very big issue for American voters, and it's obvious that it continues to be one, because you continue to see crazy stories like the murder of Irina Zarutska earlier this year in Charlotte, or the one just 3 weeks ago on the Charlotte Light Rail, where you have a twice deported illegal immigrant from Honduras who decided that he was going to be drunk and disorderly, get into an altercation with this guy on the Charlotte Light Rail. When that wasn't going in a good way, the only solution is to pull out a knife and presumably try and kill the guy. Now, fortunately, he wasn't able and successful to kill him, but the only reason you're stabbing somebody with a knife in the chest is to kill them. You're not just for funsies stabbing somebody with a knife. And so that's what's been going on in, of course, Democrat-run cities like Charlotte, where they don't believe in law and order, where they don't believe it's important to support our law enforcement, where they don't believe that having crime under control makes a city more prosperous, makes people feel better about living in a certain area. They don't subscribe to that, even though any shred of evidence would back up that case. Here's how the president closed his comments in Rocky Mount, as I believe he is turning up the heat big time ahead of the midterm elections coming up next year.
From the skyscrapers of Charlotte to the rolling hills of Asheville, from the sand dunes of Kitty Hawk to the streets of Chapel Hill, and from the factories of Hickory to the small towns and family farms across your beautiful countryside in North Carolina, we are bringing prosperity, opportunity, and pride surging back to your incredible home. Together, we're pairing all these people together. You're coming together. It's coming together like nobody's ever seen, but we're fixing 4 years of disaster and decline. The whole world was laughing at us for 4 years. They were laughing, taking advantage of us, friend and foe. And the friend was worse than the foe in many cases. On trade, they were worse. And we're beginning the greatest years in the history of our country. It's called the Golden Age of America. That's what's happening. We were a dead country. Now we're talking about the Golden Age of America. Think of it in 10 months. Think of that. So in conclusion tonight, after just 11 months, our border is secure, our spirit is restored, inflation is stopped, wages are up, prices are down, our nation is strong, and America is back. And every single day of this administration, we will keep on working for the hardworking citizens of America. We will fight, fight, fight. We will win, win, win. And with your help, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, North Carolina. God bless you all. And Merry Christmas.
So that's the president, again, Friday night here in North Carolina. Those final words out of his mouth around 10:30 p.m., right, as we're told that he's falling apart in the Oval Office. And, oh, my God, this is a disaster. It's terrible. So that's him at literally 10:30 p.m., nevertheless, highlighting some of the accomplishments, things that he's working on. And I mentioned this on the Vince Coakley show today, and I'll bring it up again. The economy has got to be the issue here. And I think I've said this before on the show. I don't know if it's just been in private conversations, but I'm more than happy to say it publicly. The administration, from the top down, over the next 8 or 9 months, needs to put all of its energy, all of its efforts, all of its messaging, all of its time into the domestic economy. When we talk about what is driving voters, when we talk about what are people dealing with day in and day out, every day of their lives, especially around this time of year, when you're traveling, you're spending money on gifts and presents for family members and friends. regardless of what's going on. It's the economy, stupid. It's always the economy. And so as we watch this continue to play out over the coming months and into next year, that's what it's got to be about. And so it's insane that we are this close to the election, and we've got to, well, I should say this administration has got to put all of its energy, all of its effort on the domestic economy, plain and simple. And if they're not going to do that, then they probably lose. And I might argue rightfully so. Everything starts and stops in politics with the economy. Has there been relief? Absolutely. Have gas prices come down? Yes, they absolutely have. Have prices on store shelves stabilized? They absolutely have. The question is it enough? I think I can say accurately this morning, I'm a Trump fan, I'm a Trump supporter, I've always voted for Trump, that more needs to be done. Now, I also understand the reality that the president doesn't have a magic wand, right? He can't just magically wave a wand and therefore the economy is fixed. I'm not oblivious to that fact. I understand that, there's a lot that goes on here, that it's not just the president. John is putting in a great comment on our Rumble live chat. He says, Congress needs to pass a budget. Enough of these CRs, continuing resolutions. Same with the North Carolina General Assembly. I agree. There's a lot of different cooks in the kitchen on this issue. No argument about that whatsoever, John. Great comment. And that's why I'm saying the focus of this administration over the next 8, 9, 10 months needs to be domestic economy. Yes, the foreign war stuff is important. Yes, the trade deal. I'm not saying that stuff's not important. But if I'm being blunt and honest with you, which I try to be as often as I can be, if I'm going to be blunt and honest with you, solving some war between two countries in Africa does not matter to 99.999% of the American people. It just doesn't. What do they care about? How much does it cost to fill up my car twice a week? I'm getting ready to take a road trip for Christmas. How much is it going to cost me to do that? Am I going to spend $150 on gas? I've got to get dinner ready. I've got my relatives coming over. My family's coming over. I got to feed 12 people on Christmas. How am I going to afford that? That's the stuff that matters. And so this administration has done a lot of good work. They really have. Things are improving. The question is, how much will improve between right now and late summer 2026, when individuals start getting engaged in the political cycle? Because the reality is most of them are not throughout the vast majority of the year. As we get into August, September, October, which I know is the fall, but as we head into that span right after Labor Day, things really get going. People really begin to engage. And so if the economy's doing well, if people are feeling comfortable, if they're not every single month wondering, crap, how am I going to do this again? I'm seeing red in my bank account. I'm not able to make my payments on my credit card. If that is still a problem, it's going to be a rough go around for Republicans. And so I know that this administration has got smart people around them. I know that they do. I know they've got people there that have their ear to the ground, can read the pulse of the American people. And I hope those individuals are getting the ear of the president and are really hammering in on this part of the economy. And by the way, one of the things of the economy that's got to be dealt with is freaking healthcare costs. Congress is out. They're not going to come back before the first of the year. They're away for Christmas. And as we flip the calendar over to 2026, a lot of people, myself included, are seeing doubling or tripling, maybe even quadrupling of their healthcare through the ACA program, healthcare.gov, Obamacare. I'm not saying it's Trump's fault. I don't believe it's Trump or the Republicans' fault. But just because it's not their fault doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a solution. So between that and domestic issues economically, which I think the healthcare issue falls into, because one of the biggest budget busters every month for people is things like insurance. So those need to be the primary focuses of this administration as we flip the calendar over into 2026. The fact that the president was out at 9 p.m., 6 days before Christmas in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, lobbying against Democrat Representative Don Davis tells me that he's taking this seriously. He's not sitting back in his ivory tower, heels kicked up, playing around on his phone, just hoping that good things are going to happen. He's obviously taking this serious. If he wasn't, there's no reason for him to have been in North Carolina on Friday. No reason whatsoever that you could come up with. So it's obvious that he's taking it seriously. And I look forward to watching this as it continues to unfold as we head into 2026. So that is the latest that we are tracking this morning as it relates to President Donald Trump and the emphasis here on the midterm elections in 2026. All right, I want to thank the law group here in Wilmington for their continued support and let you know that if you do have any legal challenges that arise across Eastern North Carolina, you've got to reach out to the law group here in Wilmington for their support, regardless of what the legal challenge is, some big, some small. Their experienced team, Melissa Gott and her team over at the law group in Wilmington, are just absolutely the best. I used them over 5 years ago when I went through the process of purchasing my home and the legal challenges that a real estate transaction is, and the experience could not have been any better. Visit them online, lawgroupnc.com, or give them a call, 910-251-6088, lawgroupnc.com, or 910-251-6088. All right. So again, kind of a different schedule here for the next couple of weeks. I am in on Tuesday for those listening to this after the fact. Tuesday morning, 10 to noon on WBT Radio in Charlotte for Vince Coakley. No show on Wednesday or Thursday. Back on Friday. The Nick Craig Show podcast will take place in various forms throughout that period of time. So definitely, if you are missing out on some of that content, I encourage you to check out the Vince Coakley podcast, available in all of your favorite podcast apps, or listen to the show live at WBT.com in the coming days as we head towards Christmas and the New Year. Tomorrow morning on the radio show, I've got a couple of articles already prepped and ready to go as it relates to Democrats and out-of-control progressives that cannot begin to fathom the idea of having to spend Christmas with their crazy Trump-supporting family members. As we know, those on the political left just cannot help themselves. Everything is politics. It is a religion to them. It is 24/7, 365. So I'm not sure if there's going to be an edition of the Nick Craig Show tomorrow. If not, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for your support throughout the last year, almost a year or so. And to you and to your family, have a Merry Christmas. We'll be back with you sometime early next week as well. Thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon on the Nick Craig Show. Don't forget the show streams live 7 a.m. Weekday mornings, YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, and is available 24/7 wherever you get your podcasts. Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining us on the Nick Craig Show.